Strange this hasn't been done before, but it's tools like this that separate the artist from the blind sheep. It's a battle, understanding the beauty of imperfections. A perfectionist lining up the sheep, telling them what to like. But humans are imperfect, and we pursue the things that cut us deep. We don't like to be asked why, because beautiful things don't ask for attention. I choose the imperfect, because there is no one true definition of perfection. Now deafen the herd, and ask yourself, what is your definition of perfection?
So guys, I'm genuinely kind of confused why no other camera manufacturer is doing something like this. Obviously, we all know that Fujifilm is kind of the GOAT when it comes to these retro-inspired cameras, and I think some people might find it silly. It's like, what's the point? That's not going to make you shoot better photos. The big thing to me is the way it makes me feel and the way it inspires me. When I pick up, my regular cameras, they kind of feel like workhorses, and for some reason, looking through a standard viewfinder, it doesn't do much. There's something weird about a film camera in hand that really, I don't know what it is. Photography is an art form, and just because we have these super advanced cameras now, I don't think that means that we should kill the art form and the beauty behind camera design. There's something weird that happens in a photographer's brain when they pick up a beautiful camera. It's, some people might find that silly, some people might find that pretentious, but there's just something about it. If you're a true photographer and you get that camera in hand and you feel the weight, you feel the metal, you feel the design, it's just, I don't know what it is. There's something human to a film camera. And so the fact that Nikon is the first to, bring a full frame option, I think what it's going to become now is, when you shoot film, obviously film's like this super magical, like mysterious thing when you shoot it. And we have different film stocks. I mean, these days there's less film stocks. It kind of seems like Kodak's making everything, which is fine because Kodak film, I absolutely love it. And there's 1,000 different ways to develop and scan the film to make it look different. When it comes to, camera color science, even that's kind of becoming neutralized these days, because when it's a raw photo, you can make it look however you want. But more importantly, I think camera designs are now going to become the new film stocks. I used to say this about color science, but once again, everyone's color science is pretty solid. And if you're shooting in log and raw photo formats, you can make it look however you want. It's your responsibility to get the photo to look how you want when we have all this much data. Talk about the feeling and, just the overall vibe of these cameras. The Nikon ZF, the weight, and I think the actual touch of it is where anytime someone first picks up this camera, they're like, oh, whoa, wait, what? Because we're used to having plastic fillings on digital cameras. Not only that, we're used to large grips, and there's just like this very weird thing on, I don't know, when I pick up a digital camera, it's like, okay, it's like, I might have a job to do. when I pick up a film camera, I'm like, oh, let's go have some fun. This is actually Jericho's Nikon F3. I don't, if you couldn't tell, why is this on there? So the cool thing about the Nikon F3 is you can actually take off the viewfinder on there, and you can use the top as like a top-down viewfinder. But you guys can see in hand, these almost feel identical. It's kind of strange. Like if I was to pick up both of these blindfolded, I might not know which camera was the film camera. With that said, I understand that a lot of people, might not care about this design. There's no body grip on here, so it's kind of awkward to hold. But for me, it just puts me back into as if I was shooting film. And more importantly, what inspires me is being able to see the film simulations through that viewfinder. So Fujifilm still has the tight grasp on that because they have all these beautiful film simulations. And do they look like film? Not exactly, but they're the closest thing that we have to a digital film format. Nikon does have their own color profiles, and you can get creative with them.
Excuse the interruption, but what if I told you all the music in this film was made by man but found it with AI? I guess that makes Auto.com a producer of this project, because with their new link match tool I was able to find songs that perfectly match some of my favorite soundtracks. And you're listening to one of those songs right now. You can get 70% off your first year subscription at Auto.com by clicking the link in the description. And don't forget to hit subscribe while you're down there.
All right, guys, when it comes to the film sims on here, it gets a little bit complicated, only because there's no way to save custom presets like you can in Fujifilm. In Fujifilm, you can do C1, C2, C3, and you can roll through them. And each custom preset saves the white balance, saves the shadows and highlights and the grain and all of that. There's no way to do that in here that I know of, but I want to share with you guys all the film sims that I created. We have the Fuji Superior 1600, which looks like the Fujifilm's classic name. I used to love shooting Fujifilm Superior 1600 and kind of pulling it. And so when you go and develop it, it brought all this like greenish tint and grain to the shadows and this magenta to the highlights. I absolutely love that look. At first, the creative profiles look kind of, I'll be honest, kind of corny. But once you start tweaking them, all of a sudden you're like, oh, like there's actually some magic to the simulations in this. So I don't want to call them film simulations. I want to call them looks. Let's call them looks. And then we have the Kodak Vision 3, which is based off the denim internal profile. And it kind of gives you like this magenta blue type hue to the shadows, which reminds me of the Kodak Vision 3, like more magenta type purplish 500T shadows that I sometimes see in certain films. From there, we have Blockbuster. Blockbuster kind of explains itself. It has a little bit more of like the bluish teal in the shadows and the warmer pinkish highlights. I actually really love the look that it gets in camera. I'm kind of shocked, what Nikon's able to do with this. From there, we have Polaroid Modern. The Polaroid Modern kind of reminds me of the Instax, like the Fujifilm Instax Polaroid type film, where it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit more neutral, but it still has like that buttery, soft, velvety type look. From there, we have Polaroid Vintage. This reminds me of like the traditional Polaroid, where there's like this warmth to it and this velvety, like flowing, mushy type contrast, mushy in a good sense, but they're heavily dependent on the white balance and the tint adjustment. So obviously you could do whatever you want with the white balance and tint, but if you want to get similar looks that I'm doing, I would try to keep the white balance and tint around the same settings that I have. But when you do change to the, the custom profiles, they save like the overall adjustments, but they don't save the white balance and tint, which is super important for getting the look out of it. So every time you change it, you got to go in, you got to save all that. So I can imagine some of you guys, if you're really into all this stuff, maybe you do a printout and you can print it on the screen here, or you could paste it to the inside of here. Like Nikon wants us to take more of these cameras seriously. They have to give us some type of film simulations or some sort of layout to where it's easily able to, go through different film formats. Nikon, what do you need to do to catch up to Fujifilm? One, we need more lens options, more of the retro lens options, more compact lens options. Obviously, APS-C on the Fujifilm, they can design smaller lenses, but if you're to provide us with, a 50 millimeter, a 60 millimeter, 35 millimeter, like f1.4, and you're able to design them to be a little bit more compact, more importantly, to have character. We want some swirly edges on there. We want some character on the sides. It doesn't need to be tack sharp. We don't need the best clinical micro contrast on there. We want some character. I know some people might be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense for you, go buy Nikon's other cameras, go buy a different camera, go buy other lenses. There already are so many perfect clinical lenses out there. I think when it comes to cameras like this, If you guys really want to drive the point in and really help inspire us and chase the people that are truly passionate about photography, we need some lenses with character and that kind of fit the retro look. You know, call us pretentious, but we like it. The second thing, we need a more concise way of being able to change the settings, just like you guys put the black and white setting on here on the knob. If you could figure out a way to where we could do that with every preset, like you guys would be winning the game. So I don't know, I would say instead of putting these on here, if all these buttons right here gave us different presets that we could save in there, holy crap, like that would be amazing. The Fujifilm XT5, for some reason, I like this one even more. I think it's the form factor. There is a tiny bit more of a grip right here, so it is a little bit more comfortable to hold. The big difference is this doesn't have that same metal filling as the Nikon ZF. The Nikon ZF's knobs even are made out of brass, so when you touch them, there's a weird feeling, like it's nice. Again, we're human, one of our senses is touch. And so, like, once again, like, just because you're a photographer, just because, you know, you might get technical with the cameras does not mean like we can't be artists and we can't, you know, feel emotional about certain things. So again, back to the XT5, for some reason, it feels, I don't want to say it feels cheaper, but it just doesn't have the same density as the ZF does. But overall, this is a little bit more of a comfortable camera. I think it's the size. Now, here's the big difference. I really wish Fujifilm would make a full frame. Yes, I know that, you know, Super 35 sensors are just as good as full frame, almost just as good until you start pushing them. The big difference is this is the 27mm f2.8 on the Fujifilm XT5, and this is Nikon's 40mm f2. So in full frame equivalent, if we're at the same, you know, distance right here, and this is a 40mm equivalent, this is gonna be equivalent to like a 40mm f4. So if you're doing any portraiture work and you're trying to blow out that background, you're gonna get way better, like buttery, creamy results on this compared to the XT5. You know, you're gonna get more of a 40mm f4, which is fine. But there's just something special. Again, when you're shooting cameras like this that are meant to inspire you and kind of motivate you, there's something special about that. Other than that, I think this is giving Fuji a run for the money. I mean, we got the brass top dials on here, a little bit more weighted body on here, the overall design, the separation we get from full frame, the colors, you know, are actually really good, but they still don't compete with Fujifilm film simulation. So I think a lot of these things Nikon can fix and address. So when I'm shooting the Nikon ZF, I have fun with it, but there's this like sneaky feeling behind my back where I'm like, I feel like I'm shooting on the XT5 and I want to go back to it. You know, my mind's going to other places, but the XT5 is, you know, it's still my go-to, it's still my favorite camera to use, but when I want that full frame performance, there is a difference, guys. I know if you're an amateur, if you're just learning, you're not gonna see the difference, but once you learn how to really push a camera and utilize it to its full potential and quality, full frame is gonna give you a little bit more milk out of that udder. That's what Jericho's cringing back there. I don't know, I like having both cameras in my kit now, so yeah. On the ZF is, you know, a special, like, again, there's no one else has done a full frame vintage type camera before. So this is the first of the first. So I had to cover it and I'm glad I did. But aside from that, you might be asking, where the hell are we? Do you guys know who Jacob Owen is? Do you guys know who the buff nerd is? This is his place. This is pretty wild. This is called the Eclectic West. This place is only $100 an hour to rent out, which is like, you come here and there's just crazy production value. So Jacob's whole thing is he wants to provide filmmakers the option to still get high budget, you know, production value on a budget. This place is wild. I will put a link in the description. You could get it on Peerspace, but this is the liquor store front out here. You can already see, like, this is easy. This is no brainer. Out over that way, there is a crashed helicopter. There's this whole shindig right here. We have a dome, and the inside of there, I got a little bit dizzy actually because the audio is funky in there. We didn't get to shoot in there. You know, it was just Jericho and I. We had 6 hours here. So, but let me take you guys through here real quick. I'm gonna give you a tour. Why not? Also, we are shooting the DJI Osmo 3. It's dark in here, but there we go. You guys can see this is the liquor store. They have all these props over here. When you book this place, make sure you tell them what you're thinking of doing. This is the garage. You know, we were just filming over here. There's a lot of, they have so many cool little props here. So if you book this place, be clear and concise on what you're trying to do here. And, you know, Jacob and his wife Chanel will help you the best they can. Property manager here too. She is amazing. Be nice to her. Let's go over and check out the cabin over here now. We have the crash plane site before we go in here. Look at this. We didn't even get to get over here today. Damn.
We need to do a round 2.
Yeah. Oh, our light's still up. So guys, our Godox light's still up. This is the cabin in here. There's some really beautiful warm light that comes out of here. There's a room back there. And yeah, this is pretty much it. So watch out for that cable. So yeah, this is the Eclectic West. You know, this thing just has production value built in. It's this weird mix of authenticity and, you know, a film set. So yeah, link down description. Jacob, thank you for allowing us to shoot here. And yeah, we gotta get back to it. We got 45 minutes. Stick it out of here. So.